Welcome to episode 25 of I Guess We'll Do It That Way. It's your co-host, Isaiah Smallman. Back to you this week with Uncle Johnny Bear and Bryce McGuire for week 2. We're going to hear the part of a story where he actually does something that works. It's going to be a great time. We also talk about why Hollywood is way overrated. As always, I Guess We'll Do It That Way is brought to you by Mama Bear Studios. Mama Bear Studios' mission is to create entertaining works of art that explore our humanity. Okay, here's episode 25. And we're back. How's everyone doing?
We're doing this right now.
Oh yeah, we're doing it now.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, we're gonna finish it.
I guess while we're here, we should.
So last where we left off, Bryce was broke and thinking about leaving LA.
Yeah.
Not long ago.
That song that we played last week, do I have to pretend like it was last week? The song that you played?
Yeah.
It's a nice tribute. You have like a thing that you can, especially dude, when you told me your wife sings it with you. That's powerful, dude. You guys have like a thing that you can, that crystallizes like a hard time that you guys have gone through and triumphed.
Yeah, I do feel like we're on the other side of that time.
It's powerful, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, and Katie has always, through this whole process, I feel like she has grounded me, and because she doesn't care about this glittering dream of, like, making movies in Hollywood. She literally could not care less. Like, she cares about people and, like, our planet and, like, more important things, and she's coming home and her being like, yeah, I'm listening to you, like, I get it, that's stressful, but there was always things that were more important, and she reminded me that those existed and kind of, I think, kept me out of my own head and kept me from being more self-destructive and self-absorbed, because she's not chasing the same thing, and she's a deep well. She's just a grounded and good person, and I think she kind of saved me from a more destructive path through some of that craziness.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do Hollywood wrong is to think that Hollywood is more important than it is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think that...
Or anything.
I don't know. Or anything. Yeah, I mean, you can be in banking, and if you really convince yourself that it's the end-all, be-all of everything, then it's just going to take on too much importance. You won't be able to put it in the place that it deserves, which is that it's work. You know, work can be good, work can be meaningful. We're all very fortunate that we get to do things for work that we care about and that we're passionate about. But at the end of the day, it is work, and it will be forgotten, and it just doesn't matter that much, you know? Yeah. That doesn't mean it can't be important, but it isn't as important as lots of other things.
Yeah, Zay, you have been sending me these. I don't know if we've talked about it, but you've been sending these sermons to me on Ecclesiastes. And the guy,
it's the best.
It's very good, and we'll put a link, or Zay will, and people should listen to it. But
and it's one of those things. I'll just interject too. Like, I think there's sermons is such a loaded. What's great about these particular ones, I think, is and Ecclesiastes in general is just how it's so. If you're ever going to be like skeptical of the Bible or skeptical of any sort of spirituality or anything, that's totally fine. Ecclesiastes is like such an interesting place to start, in the same way that you don't necessarily have to be Buddhist to believe that there's a ton of great stuff that, you know what I mean? Like Ecclesiastes 100%. Is just classic wisdom literature, and it's kind of undeniable.
Hemingway was obsessed with Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Herman Melville said it was like the best, like one of the best books of all time. Anyway, so, sorry, John, you were saying.
They brought up the idea of memento. The pastor brought up the idea of memento mori, which used to be very popular back in the art world back in the day. These guys would make. There's a famous one. I actually put it in the show notes and sent it to you, Zay. They like Prince of Orange, I think his name was. Commissioned a statue when he was like my age. He's like 30-something, early 30s. He commissioned a statue of himself to be made, and in the statue, he is just basically bones. Some skin on his flesh. It's all stone, marble, or whatever. And he's holding his own heart and looking at it. And it says on it, Memento Mori. It's a beautiful statue. And he had it commissioned while he was alive because he was this famous, wealthy prince. But he knew, just like the guy in Ecclesiastes, one day I will be nothing. and I need to remember that to live properly.
Yeah, I will be nothing. And I think one of the most important, interesting things about Ecclesiastes, historically speaking, is that historically, like, we know that whoever wrote it, probably Solomon, was exceedingly wealthy, but we also know that Solomon's life kind of ended in disgrace. Like, his kingdom fell apart. He wasn't poor, but like his family was an absolute train wreck. His kingdom was completely split down the middle, falling apart. And that's part of what he's taught. He spends a lot of time talking in the book about how fruitless these endeavors are, partly because they won't make you happy, but also partly because no matter what you build, and we see this all the time now, it's going to get handed off to some bozo who's going to ruin the whole thing. Like, whether it's your kids or somebody else, like, your money is going to get given to a non-functioning government and to a bunch of idiot kids who are going to like live on their trust funds and F everything up. That's what happens. Like, that is the way history works, period. And to me, that's just like, I call it my memento mori tattoo. Actually, it's like it's on my left arm, and it's a pyramid, like a Mexican pyramid. And I got the idea because I went to Mexico and I was really struck by like these massive pyramids. You never hear anything. We've talked about this on the show a little bit, but you never hear anything about the Western Hemisphere, like sort of that part of the ancient world. But huge civilizations. And you see these pyramids, and then there'll just be like another pyramid a few hundred yards away, 600-foot tall pyramid or something nuts like that. Maybe not 600 foot, 300 feet. They're massive, though.
Yeah.
And there'll be another one over there. It's still covered in weeds because they haven't even had time to excavate it because there's so many of them. And you're like, these things took dozens and dozens of years to build. Many people died, and they're just covered in dirt. And then the actual tattoo I got is sort of the icon that they use on the interstates, the same way they have like, for rest stops or gas stations or food, they have like a blue and white simple icon. And it's just like, that's what it means. Well, there's this pyramid icon all over Mexico because there's just ruins everywhere. And so I was like really struck by like this entire civilization has effectively been boiled down to one two-dimensional icon that I can get tattooed on my arm. And I think my life is important. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I love like kind of wackier theories, right? Like, and I'm always I'm working with my dad sometimes during the week, and my dad's very religious, and so I'm always trying to bring up like, non-mainstream ideas. And the other day, he's an architect, so I mentioned the pyramids, and I was like, don't you think it's kind of weird that pyramids have been built all over the world? Civilizations that have not come in contact with each other built pyramids about the same time in different parts of the world. Don't you think that's kind of weird? Like, about to later hit him with like, maybe aliens helped them.
Aliens.
And my dad, an architect, was just like, yeah, it's an obvious form. Of course they made that. I was like, oh.
Yeah, because it's like, you don't build a tower. Towers are much harder. It's like you build a foundation, you get smaller towards the top,
right,
and you walk
It's
up.
like, yeah, it's an obvious form.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay.
That makes sense. I like that.
So much
I also
less
like the
interesting
alien
than I
theory,
hoped.
though.
Ancient Aliens, baby. On Netflix, check it out.
So, at this point, we know that Bryce has failed in his pursuit of his Hollywood dreams, and but he, as he said, he's turned the corner. So let's get back to bio, because I'm curious about what I think you'll be curious about what Bryce is working on now.
It's good to talk about the meaninglessness of it all before getting into this next section. Actually. So we traveled.
That's how we like to do it.
Right.
Every accomplishment on this show has to be balanced with an equally weighty failure. I think that's got to be like the physics of this show. I think
that's true. So we had just traveled for 6 weeks, seeing family in Florida and Tennessee and West Virginia, all up in the South. And we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. Are we going to sell our home? We don't know. We're going to move out of our apartment. We're going to find somewhere else to live, move in with family, do something. And I just knew that there had been projects, scripts, things that had been percolating for literally years that needed to go out into the world and have a chance of turning into something. And I kind of made this, not a bargain, but Katie and I kind of decided to okay, let's give this a year to see if any of there was literally 10 things. And I'm like, even if 8 of them go away, if 9 of them go away, if one of these things happen, it will be a measurable step forward. It will be a big deal. It will be a paradigm changing victory.
Real quick, I think there's some interesting, Bryce brought this up in the last episode, but some good advice that we've both gotten, which is like, it's going to take 10 years at least probably to really be stable if you make it.
Yeah.
That's an if.
Yeah.
But part of the way that you know along the way if you're wasting your time is you may not be getting there, quote unquote, but you should be getting somewhere. You should be making incremental progress towards your goal. And I really think that's some of the best advice, because I think sticking it out is good advice, but
if you're not
if nothing's changed in 7 or 8 years, then maybe you either need to do like a full U-turn and try something different, or maybe you just need to try something really, really different, meaning not here. Or that's not 100% true, but I just think in your gut, like you gotta self-assess. Anyway, so I thought that was good advice that I just worth repeating in this episode. But Bryce, go ahead.
I very much agree. And so just to not delay this too any longer, so one of those things that I mentioned of the 10 seeds kind of took root, which was this short film I directed about 3 years prior called Night Swim, which is literally a 3-minute short film set in a pool at night.
Yeah, this kind of fits that category that you were talking about last week, John. Just like a really scary, I'll send it to you, but a really scary kind of fun,
no character
setup,
setup, no story. It's literally a visual mechanism and a concept, and it's a slick execution of that. It's a sales document, to be totally frank. Like, it's not even what I would consider a traditional short film. It's more of a sales piece of media,
right? To like get to a bigger project.
Exactly. Okay. And so people basically, when that short film came out, a lot of people had watched it and were like, "What's the feature?" I'm like, "There's no fucking feature. It's a woman in a pool that's scary. Like, there's no movie there." But enough people kept asking me. When I went to finish my first feature, I was like, "Okay, Bryce, maybe you should say yes, there is a movie here, and maybe you should figure out what that is. Because people keep asking, like, there's interest there. Like, don't fight an uphill battle. Like, go with the momentum that's there. Go with the interest that has already been proven." Yeah. And so that's what I did. So I broke that story. I wrote a treatment based on that short film, and the dude who made the short film with me, Rod Blackhurst, who is sharing story by credit on the feature with me. Him and I worked on it. We put together a 30-page pitch deck, which has visual imagery and it has a treatment that's prose. And we had the short film, and that kind of leaked a little bit and started going around town and kind of quickly developed into this competitive situation where this has never happened to me. So I'm
barely ever happens to anyone.
Is there an agent behind this who is leaking this to get attention?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So
but it is getting attention.
It is getting attention to a lot of places, and then they start kind of using that momentum and setting a bunch of pitches. Where there was a week when I was pitching at 4 or 5 places a day, 4 or 5 days, and that's everything from small production companies to studios, and then these producers start coming on board. And so what happens in a situation like this is a producer or a production company will take it to their territories. And a territory refers to their relationship with a financing entity or a studio that has money to buy it. Production companies typically do not have their own financing money or development money, but they have relationships that they parlay into making a sale.
Because those bigger companies trust them to basically be the gatekeeper, tastemakers, to be the developers.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Which is it's an annoying kind of middleman system that frustrates a lot of people, but it is the way it works. Mm-hmm. So 3 different production companies actually came on board Night Swim and took it to their 3 different territories. And then they started setting pitches through their relationship. So I was at, Paramount and Lionsgate and Amblin and basically all the major studios, and I'm pitching this movie. And it was very stressful, very surreal, exhausting. I would drive home just being but I was so uncertain of what's going to happen.
Because it could be nothing.
Right. You could just go and go do the whole round and then nothing happens. No one actually pulls a trigger. And that's kind of what happened. The places we thought we were going to get an offer from backed out at the last second and like lost momentum over the weekend, and I'm like freaking out. But there was one place, which is James Wan's company, Atomic Monster. So they're the people who do like all of the like Conjuring movies, The Nun, Annabelle. Yeah. So they're a powerhouse in the genre world. They do a little bit different type of movie than Jason Blum does. They're like slightly more commercial, slightly bigger, like slightly classier. They're not like kind of doing these like $1 million like cash grabs. Like they're doing a little bit more like formal kind of.
And real quick too, even just in terms of the interesting kind of logistical side of Hollywood, you've got James Wan's company, Atomic Monster.
Yeah.
Then you've got New Line, which is effectively a studio, but it's actually a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. Yep. And then Warner Brothers is probably owned by some giant parent company on Wall Street. So it's sort of this like crazy, it just, I find that kind of stuff interesting.
It is. So the James Wan, director of The Conjuring 1 and 2 and Fast and Furious, the new Aquaman movie, he's like this kind of superstar director who has his own production company.
Was it the Conjuring 1 or the Conjuring 1?
I have been referred to as a wannabe.
Ooh.
In the comments of a Deadline, the comment section of a Deadline article.
How do you deal with that? That can't be the worst thing they've said about you.
I literally could not care less.
You don't care? Okay, that's good.
I literally could not care. I'm like, I'll take it. So basically, I met with these guys at Atomic Monster. James Wan watched the short film. He was swimming in his pool at night, and he said he was doing the freestyle and looked up over his shoulder and thought he saw the creature from my short film.
Oh, wow.
And said, like, I have to make this movie. So when I had that, I was like, wait, this... And honestly, like, that was the best place I could possibly make this movie. I mean, just the pedigree that comes with him and the validation of, like, being released with all these other huge horror hits. Because when you see, like, from the studio that brought you The Conjuring, it's like you could not have a bigger stamp of approval, and there's a built-in audience that's just ravenous. So I was, like, freaking out, like, oh my gosh, this is the thing. And all the other offers that we thought we were going to get from Amblin, from Legendary, bottomed out, did not happen. But we did get an offer from New Line and James Wan, which is kind of who I wanted to do it with anyway.
Is this an offer for... So you right now you have a script, you have a deck
just a treatment,
that you brought.
Not a script.
Not even a script. So you have the concept, the short film.
Yep.
And that's what you bring, and he says,
and also the general knowledge and people vouching for him that he can write a good script.
Right. So they had read a sample. They had read a script called The White Room, which we'll actually kind of circle back to in a little bit later. So they knew I could execute a script. They knew I had made a movie with Jason Blum and with Timur Bekmambetov with the movie that has not been released, but they knew it existed.
Right.
So like, okay, like someone already vouched for you. So even though they hadn't seen that movie, they like it existed, and that was enough validation. Okay, so
I got you.
So then my deal is they're gonna pay me to write the script and then pay me to direct the feature version of that.
Wow.
So that happened in the spring of this past year of 2018, but then it took like literally 5 months to like close the deal, close negotiations, like actually get paid. Like that.
Is it a life change?
So
I mean, I know
long.
you probably don't want to talk specifics, and I'm not asking you to, but
Right.
you know, not from like Hollywood standards, but from like dude from Dayton standards. Is it like a life changing amount of money? Is it float you for a couple years? You know, what's it look like?
For us, it was life changing just because we were coming for nothing. I mean, it's kind of you get the money in steps. So like, the first thing you get is like the purchase of the short film, and then they have to buy the treatment. Then you get like commenced on the first draft of the script. You get half the money upon commencement, half the money upon delivery, but there's guaranteed steps. So I know I have a guaranteed first draft and revision and an optional polish. But even just based on what's guaranteed for us, it was kind of like the gun goes away from the back of your head,
right.
And you can kind of like we can live for like a year,
yeah,
comfortably, which is a huge deal. I mean, for us, it's like a huge deal. So that was a giant, I mean, I remember when I got that phone call from my agents being like, the offer just came in. I was with Tommy in his apartment in Silver Lake, and I dropped to my knees because like my knees gave out, and like I started crying. I know that sounds very melodramatic.
Not at all.
That's how I felt, because I'd been waiting for that for so long and it didn't feel like it was ever going to happen. And when I got that call, I just kind of collapsed. It was with the people I wanted to be making with. I trusted them as producers, and it was a huge win. It just felt amazing. Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm gonna be an annoying producer real quick.
Yeah.
We don't have a ton more time. But I do want. Bryce has a couple other cool things. So Bryce, tell us, but try not to yak so much.
Sorry.
Just kidding. This is great.
Yeah. So that happened, and kind of because that happened.
And Bryce lives in a 16-bedroom mansion in Hollywood now.
Oh yeah, baby.
No, he's
You said your wife cares about the environment, so I doubt it.
Yeah.
She says she cares about the environment.
She cares about the environment. So kind of because that happened, I was able to kind of leverage that in a way to get involved with another similar project that was based on a short, high-concept horror film that was going out as a pitch to studios, a very similar model, and the producers that were taking that project out knew me and trusted me because of Night Swim, and I kind of finagled my way into being attached as the writer on this short film that was being adapted into a feature, and that pitch went out. Isaiah was in the thick of all this happening. He tried to convince me to not do it, by the way.
No.
Uh-oh.
No. I tried to convince him because I knew that if I could convince him not to do it, then he shouldn't do it.
That's fair.
I knew that there was a very strong possibility he was going to ignore my advice, and my thought with that was, if he believes in this enough to ignore my advice, then he could do it. But if I'm able to just willy-nilly convince him not to do this, then he shouldn't do it. Anyway, I'm just defending myself a little bit. Thank you.
Fair enough. Part of the process.
You define that narrative for yourself however you want to, Isaiah. Yeah. No, that I think that was valid, and I did think about it, and I was worried about my taking on too many projects and whatever, and I'm like, is this even going to happen?
Because basically, what I was saying is, yeah, you don't want to take on too many projects and ruin the one that got you here.
Sure.
That's what I was really saying.
Which is totally valid, and I definitely went through a moment of like prioritizing and kind of trying to define that essentialism of like, no, you can't say yes to everything, and you shouldn't. And what do you say yes to, and why? What becomes your compass for choosing?
Did you say what you were saying yes to?
Okay, so that movie, the short answer is that the movie I was attached to, that the pitch I was attached to, got sold to Amblin, which is Steven Spielberg's company. Whoa. He read the treatment and watched the short and was like, we have to do this, and an offer came in that day.
Wow.
And so I'm writing a movie for
Steve.
That Steven Spielberg's producing.
For Steve. We call him Steve.
Wait a second. Have you met him?
I have not met him. I know a couple of his kids just from being in LA.
I know his daughter. I mean, obviously
who?
Not.
Sasha. Which one? Yeah, she's a great musician.
Yeah, that's how I know
her as
Buzzy.
Well. Yeah. Buzzy Lee, baby.
Yeah.
Slow Hands. Good tune.
Who knew?
Yeah, no, they're great. So she's really good friends with Greta Morgan, who is in
I know
Springtime Carnival.
Springtime Carnival.
Yeah, Springtime Carnival. I directed a music video for them, which was a really fun experience. Greta she dated a good friend of mine, Eddie O'Keefe, who's a really good filmmaker. So they all kind of run in the same music circle in LA. So yeah,
it's so funny
Sasha's
because
awesome.
Back up in Jersey, I through my lifelong friend Aaron.
I think he's saying he knows the music.
Well, so through
Are you saying you know her?
Well, I know this, it's just a weird, Instagram trail, but this girl that I knew up in Jersey now lives in New York with her sister, and they make this thing called the Maris, the girl's name is Maris Jones. They do the Jones Family Retro Hour or something like that, and they're friends with, or they know these people out in LA, and that's how I just happen to hear about them through them.
Gotcha.
I don't even know these people. I have not talked to the girl that I
but you know their music, and
I just am familiar with them through online.
Got it. Okay. Yes. So that's kind of here or there, but I have not met him. I will meet him at some point. There's gonna be a kickoff meeting.
Bryce, I'd like to give you a little advice when you meet him. He's gonna be smaller than you think, so I think you should stoop down. Try to get on his level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Really squat down. Make a real effort to get on his level. And then I want you to grab him he's going to go for the handshake, but I want you to grab him kind of by the shoulder and pull him into a somewhat forceful hug.
Good.
And then I want you to whisper in his ear, I'm coming for you, old man.
Apparently the rumor about him is that he's maybe possibly autistic or on the spectrum somewhere? Asperger's?
I very much believe that. In a very high functioning, minimal way. Like, that completely makes sense to me. Like, yeah, I know he's like I know he's a good dad because his kids speak very, and a good guy. And I think he's a little neurotic in that director kind of Asperger's-y way. But like, yeah, anyway, so that'll be
exciting.
cool.
You have to come back on and tell us about meeting him.
Oh, he'll be back on.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm not yakking too much now, but
not at all.
That's
Bryce. It's okay.
That's happening, but then I'm trying to not do too many other big things. Like actually, so the White Room, that script I mentioned before, that script was just recently got on this thing called the Blood List, which is like the best unproduced genre scripts that are around town. So executives, like 120 or like 70 something executives at studios and production companies, they vote on their favorite scripts. And so something I wrote was on that script, on that list. And that movie, hopefully, I love that script. It's one of my favorite things I've ever written. That hopefully is going to get made, but I don't want to say anything until we have official news on that, but maybe follow up. But when that happened, when the kind of like the Deadline article about Night Swim and Whisper and the Blood List release came out in the same week, it was kind of a crazy week. And I actually ended up like kind of following Isaiah's advice and like turning down 2 projects, assignments, because I'm like, I'm in this desperate, ambitious, scarcity mindset for so long that it terrifies me to say no to anything. Like the idea of like saying no to like a real job, like a studio job, is terrifying to me.
You're the Holocaust survivor who is stuffing bagels. Yeah. Like honestly, like not to compare that at all, but like that principle of like scarcity and like survival, like I felt like I was in that for so long, and now I'm like, wait, no, you don't have to say yes to everything. You should not say yes to everything, and now you can be more selective about what you want to do.
Part of it is that there are appropriate reactions for circumstances, and if you're living in an environment of scarcity, then responding by rationing things and taking every opportunity is absolutely the appropriate approach. Right. But it ceases to serve you at a certain point. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's what anxiety is this like, or PTSD. I mean, basically PTSD, not to say that you have PTSD, but like this is a super minor version of that where it's like you're having your tendency, your habit, your neural pathways are wired towards get it while you can. And I think that actually starts to, you see it even to be very specific in directors' careers, it does happen where they just start taking on shitty projects. They get worse and worse and worse, and then eventually they end up with either careers that they don't recognize, or they end up going home, or they end up burning out, or whatever. And I think the people like Steven Spielberg, it's almost impossible to compare anyone's career to his, but at the same time, part of what's made him able to do what he's done is that he probably paced himself, and he didn't burn out when he was 35. Yeah. He did make a lot of movies, but he also must have paced himself because he's still making movies.
We talked about him before.
He stepped back. Yeah. He stepped back and redefined his whole like ethos. Like, like he had that moment like before Schindler's List where he's like, wait, I grew up in a suburb outside Phoenix where I hid my Jewish identity because I was made fun of it. I was made fun of for it. And now it's like, wait, I've achieved all of the success and I've gotten all of the money from all these popcorn commercial projects, which I loved. But now I need to return to my roots and find my connection to my heritage and my faith and my culture, which is what prompted him to make Schindler's List, which was a kind of a huge turning point in the type of movies he became interested in.
He's a prestige guy all of a sudden.
Yeah. And that is such Bryce, it's a great movie.
It's great.
So good.
So Bryce, you started, although we're not allowed to talk about it because we've seen it.
What?
Schindler's List. We have to find movies to talk about that we haven't seen. Bryce, you're currently Bryce. We like to say Bryce is on the map. That's how I like to put it. Bryce is on the map. He's a big deal. No,
are they doing like Star Search tours at your like? This is the home of Bryce, director writer.
Going past my shitty duplex in Alhambra.
Oh
yeah, baby.
It's not shitty, but it is a duplex.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, baby.
So I'm writing Night Swim right now. I'm about to turn in my first draft, which Isaiah has not read yet, but he's going to.
I don't plan on reading it. Bryce sent it to me weeks ago. I'm going to make him wait.
Yeah. Did you read it, Zay?
No, of course not.
Read it yet. Okay.
No, I will read it. I missed my window because I hurt my back, And then Bryce started making a bunch of changes, and I'm like, I'm not going to read an old draft and give you outdated notes. So now I'm just waiting for Bryce to get off his lazy ass and finish it.
So I'm about to turn in my first draft to the studio.
If I don't shred it first.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm trying to make the best movie possible. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know what the notes are going to be like. I don't know what to expect from that.
Are you going to direct it, or is James Wan going to direct it?
I'm directing it.
You are okay.
Yes. Yep.
And Juan is producing?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane, my dude. It's like a lottery ticket in a way, but based on effort instead of random chance.
So it's sort of like a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
It's nothing like a lottery ticket.
Bryce, what's the latest with Florida Man?
Yeah.
We talked about Florida Man in the last episode. Just to recap, Florida Man
is about to go out to town.
Bryce's redneck comedy show that he wrote about Florida and all the crazy stuff that's happening there. Can you remind us what that is very briefly, and then tell us what it is? Because I think it's kind of a cool story.
I mean, it's a TV show that we have 2 episodes written that we're sending out, and a little like mini Bible, which is like a document that kind of explains like what is the show, what's the tone, what's the ambition for it, and then that's going to go out to, Netflix, HBO, Hulu, Amazon,
with
Stars, with a company called Grand Via, which is Mark Johnson, who produced like Rain Man and Galaxy Quest and Breaking Bad and Rectify and Better Call Saul and all this stuff.
That is insane.
Marky
Mark. Mark's a funny guy. He's like a grandpa to me. I like him. But
he's also working out constantly. Apparently, have you seen this? He's
Marky Mark or Mark Johnson?
No, Marky Mark.
We're talking about Mark Johnson, the producer, but also I did.
What about Mark Wahlberg?
Mark Wahlberg is all okay. Yeah,
that's what I thought you were talking about. Mark Wahlberg's working out like crazy.
No, Mark Johnson, I do not think is working out, but he is like he's an old man that's in good shape. Like he's probably 65 or.
Let's not call him an old man.
He is an established older gentleman who has a lot of career left ahead of him.
I'm still hearing older. Let's go with he's a vet. How about that?
That is how a girl would describe her like 57-year-old unemployed boyfriend. That he is an established older gentleman.
That's basically who this guy is.
That's basically who he is to me.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't refer to him as older, but
I'm just messing.
Love the dude. So that's going to go out. I think this week. I think they're sending that what day is it? Friday. I think they're sending it out today. So then
they send it out and they see a script, right? This has not been shot or anything yet.
No, they read a script. They read the little like mini Bible document thing, and they're like, they say, do we want to hear this pitch? And if they want to hear the pitch, then I go in there and I do my song and dance and talk about big fish on bath salts and tell some funny stories, some crude stories, and then we'll see if anyone wants to make it.
It's very good.
How long does a pitch like that last?
It's like 25 minutes. It's like my side of it, like my little like spiel is like 25 minutes, and then they grill you with questions. So you got to be able to kind of tap dance in and out of it.
And do you get like a certain amount of uninterrupted
Wait, your spiel is how long?
About 25 minutes.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, while you're talking, like this, the way people picture it, and by people I mean me. You walk into a room. There's like 3 to 7 people sitting there,
that's about right.
And you're standing there like giving a presentation in class in high school.
God,
nervous. Is that how it is?
Kind of. I mean, I'm there with Mark Johnson and Melissa Bernstein, who's the head of TV at Grand Via, and Tom Williams, who is the head of feature, who found the project. And so they're all going to be there with me, and they'll chime in, or I'll throw stuff to them sometimes to make a joke or whatever.
And are you all standing or sitting?
I don't know, dude. I actually do not know.
I'll
tell you. I'll let you know.
I need to know.
I have a little story. Perhaps an omen for Bryce.
Okay.
The year is 2000. I'm gonna go with 2009.
Okay.
I have recently been spending the summer in Spain. I am making a presentation the next day to my Spanish class in Spanish. Okay. And it was intense. That's not the real story though. Let's rewind. The night before. I'm sitting at a diner with my wife, my now wife, my then girlfriend, and she borrows my computer and opens a file on my desktop to look for something. And the first thing that she sees is a picture.
Hose.
No, even worse, is a picture. I'm
Oh boy.
I don't know if I'm going to link to it. A picture of the famous TV star Milton Berle with a probably fire hose, double a fire hose thickness penis that's about 8 feet long, like draped over his shoulder. And it's literally the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I have no idea how it got there. And Kelly sees it first thing, and she's like, "What is this doing on your computer?" And I immediately
describe the picture. Is it a real picture? Is it a cartoon?
It's a photoshopped picture that looks so real. It's hideous.
He did famously have a giant hog, or so
yes,
to say.
But no, this is like literally it's an anaconda. I mean, it's like
right.
It's not real. It's
I got you.
It's absolutely. It's so detailed, very veiny. It's disgusting.
Aunt Julie, you picking all this up here?
And and so she sees this. She's like, "What is this? What is this doing here?" And I was like, pretty sure that someone was just being funny and pranked me. So I of course deleted it, right? And then the next morning, I found another one in a different folder, and I was like, "Okay, surely I'm good." I then forget about it. I'm giving my presentation in Spanish class. A bunch of like 18-year-old girls and this hilarious old Spanish teacher lady. And I'm giving my presentation in Spanish, and I'm flipping through a file of folders. I have a file of photos. And like the 13th photo that shows up is Milton Berle's giant ding-dong on the projector in front of like 30 kids in a Spanish class. I am not kidding. And I like I quit the program immediately. Like I hotkeyed it. I was like, Command Q, boom, quit.
Oh boy.
Still there in the Finder window. You know how it does the preview for the photos? It's still there. So then I just like slammed the laptop shut and like yanked the cord out. Oh, no. And I tried for about 3 minutes to recover. Like it was a long time.
Did you try to explain yourself?
I was like, I don't know how it got there.
Can't picture it. I was like, someone most battles.
And yeah, exactly. No, I'm like trying to stay in character, do my Spanish bit. I'm like, I don't know how to say
Los Bados. Wow.
Yeah. Oh man. And then
should have learned some Spanish.
It was bad. It was really bad. Everyone was laughing, including the Spanish teacher, but laughing in the sense of like laughing the way you do when you like witness something horrible, and you can only respond with laughter because anything else doesn't seem possible. Anyway, I stormed onto my hall, and I was like, "What the hell?" And like all my roommates down at the end of the hall were just like immediately knew exactly what I was mad about because they had hidden, no joke, 50 plus versions of this file all over my computer. Everywhere. It was, and they named them different things, so I couldn't even just search for it. They were everywhere. There were so many of them.
Dude, that's brilliant.
Isn't that amazing? So I'm really very seriously considering sneaking a little something into Bryce's pitch. HBO loves their dicks. Let's get them some. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think this is a hindrance here. When I was at college, me and kids would send like maternity magazines and stuff to each other. You know, like sign somebody up for like Gerber baby products and stuff.
That's so
I don't
good.
know, the pornography on somebody's computer is too.
It's a little
dicey.
much. It's a little much.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, I won't. I won't wink. Can't see my winking because it's radio. It's not radio. It's a podcast. All right. Well, listen, this has been great. Bryce, you want to play us out with another song?
Sure.
Bryce is going to play us out with another song. Make it a good one this time.
Oh.
Psych. The last one was great. You don't want to play? Bryce is giving me eyes. What? Oh, I know this one.
Isaiah's looking up the lyrics.
Am I?
Do you know you can sing with me, John.
This is "Say It Ain't So" by Weezer.
Correct. How's the first verse start?
Somebody's hiney is crowding my icebox. You like that attitude? It's giving me chills.
This way is
Your drug is a heartbreaker. Say it ain't so. Your love is a life taker. To the bridge. To the bridge. If on the telly. Wrestle with Jimmy. Keep bubbling inside my back. Bottle is ready to blow. We do not know all the lyrics. Say it ain't so. Your drug is a heart taker. Daddy, I write you.
I don't know the chords.
In spite of this great silence.
years of silence. Keep playing the radio fire. I'm going to improvise.
You cleaned up.
Daddy, I write you. In spite of years of silence, you've cleaned up.
Found Jesus.
Things are good. Or so I hear. This is really going off the rails.
Oh, dude, love it. It's a great song.
It's such a good song.
It's one of their finest, really.
Yeah.
It's a
they have
powerful
some
song about
fine
family
tunes.
dynamics.
Yeah, oh, it really is. Dear Daddy, I write you in spite of years of silence. Anyway, we're going to roll.
I think anybody with, like, a drinking problem or people who know people who have a drinking problem and families and stuff, like, that song is itself sort of a heartbreaking song.
Yeah. This bottle of Stevens awakens ancient demons.
Yeah.
Or ancient beings.
Ancient feelings.
Ancient feelings,
that's what it is.
Dude, yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Dude, it was an absolute pleasure to meet
I'm
you.
a friend of the
Seriously,
pod.
I really enjoyed these conversations. I really look forward to looking up what you've done.
We'll be back because John, you as you know, we've teased it a little bit. Bryce and I are actually producing as the guy Tommy. We're producing a very exciting podcast.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to get into any specifics, but he went on some other podcasts and started talking about it. So I'll at least tease it a little bit.
Wait, Bryce, was that like you? Was that you who made that?
What?
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm conflating things here.
No,
Latvia?
the director in Latvia. Yeah. That was Tommy who made the movie. Yeah. Bryce was actually originally slated to make the movie in a certain different world. But, it's about Tommy's experience making a movie, which I feel like it's going to be more of a dramatic radio style story. Yeah. It's going to be scripted. It's going to be really well produced. It's going to be very different than this, but in a weird, fun way. It's actually like a perfect sort of sister to this podcast because it's about a different director making a movie. It just happens to be an absolutely batshit crazy story.
Yeah, I listened to it. It's quite good. I enjoyed what I listened to.
Stranger than fiction. Yeah, so there's a pilot that's out, and we've got some really fun ideas for sort of how to turn it into a full season. And so Bryce and I are actually working on that among a number of other things.
We could at some other point we can get into more of like how I came aboard Mama Bear and like what we're up to and
we're gonna do more of this, but cool. And at some point we'll have Tommy on. We'll talk about that show. We'll track some of the progress of making that other show on this show. So we're kind of getting to that point in the show which we've been teasing. Everyone always, we're expanding. We're bringing new projects in. We're bringing new people in. We're gonna make it, super exciting. So
it took me a long time to read Rollers, but I'm saying this as an objective third party who is very accomplished.
Bryce is on the map.
Compare your accomplishments to Carmen, the singer.
Oh my god!
Oh, we didn't talk about Carmen.
Well, I want
next time.
I do want to say that I'm a big Rollers fan. I really enjoyed the script. I was kind of, when you read a friend's script and you've never read their stuff before, you're always kind of just terrified that it's going to be like bad or mediocre, and just like, ooh, just like, and they're talking about it on a podcast. It's so embarrassing.
I know we've had this.
And I read it
talk.
and I liked it. Yeah, it's good. It's a really good script.
That's
and
awesome.
I think it's going to be a very cool movie, and I'm excited about this. I'm fan and friend of all things rollers.
Friend of the show, Bryce.
Yep.
Now, Bryce, I will now unshackle you from your chair. Now that you've finished your end of the obligation, which is praising me publicly. That was the whole point of this. You may now go.
Is this why we haven't heard from Katie? Because she's like in a corner with a gun to her? It's like, Stephen King always writes books about a guy who lives in Maine who writes horror books and that kills his wife. I'm like, dude, get out of there, Mrs. King.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I love Stephen King.
He's writing about it so he doesn't have to do it, right?
Right, mm-hmm. Precisely.
Shit. I got to go, guys. I got to call with my music supervisor. Bye.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Let's wrap it up.
Thanks, John. Love you, buddy.
See you, too. Love you. Hope I see you in California when I come out there.